We've been married for 11 years. Two amazing kids, 8 and 5. From the outside, we look like a happy, successful family. Big house in the suburbs. I run a tech consulting firm that demands a lot of travel, sometimes weeks at a time. My wife, Sophie, has been a stay-at-home mom ever since our second child was born. She always said she wanted to be fully present for the kids, and I supported that completely. To make things easier at home, and since money wasn't tight, we hired a personal chef a little over a year ago. His name is Marco. Mid-30s, heavily tattooed, charming in that fake smile, Pinterest dad kind of way. My wife was the one who found him, said she met him through some mutual mom group. I didn't think twice. I trusted her. Marco was good at what he did. Our meals were always incredible. The kids loved him, especially our youngest. I just chalked it up to his being good with kids. My wife? She was constantly complimenting him. Marco makes the best risotto. Marco always knows what I'm craving. Looking back, yeah, it sounds insane. But I honestly thought she was just happy to have help around the house. I didn't want her to feel overwhelmed while I was working 70-hour weeks. I missed a lot of little signs. Hell, I missed some big ones too. Sophie started dressing differently. Nothing too crazy, just more makeup during the day, tighter tops, shorter skirts. I noticed. I asked once or twice, jokingly, "Who are you dressing up for?" She'd laugh it off. For myself. I'm not going to stop looking good just because I'm a mom. Fair enough, right? I mean, I didn't want to sound controlling. She also started getting distant in bed. Not uninterested, just absent. Like she was going through the motions. I chalked it up to stress. Kids, routines, life. She was always quick to defend Marco whenever I questioned why he was still at our house past dinner. He was helping me clean. We were meal planning for the week. He's just so thorough, "Babe, you'd know if you were home more." That one stung. But she was right, I wasn't home much. I'd get in on a Thursday night and be gone by Monday morning. I tried to plan more at-home work weeks, but every time I did, something at the office would pull me back. Sophie never complained outright. But I could feel her resentment building, little snide comments, snappy replies, cold shoulders. Still, I had no idea what was coming. I thought I was being a provider. A good dad. A supportive husband. Turns out I was just playing the role of a blind idiot. Part 2 is when everything blows up. And I mean everything. I caught them. Red-handed. And what came next was something out of a damn soap opera. So yeah. I caught them. In our home. In our bed. It happened on a Thursday. I was supposed to be in Chicago for a 3-day client meeting. But last minute, the trip got postponed. I figured I'd surprise Sophie and the kids, maybe even take them out for dinner. I didn't text or call ahead, wanted it to be a spontaneous dad's home kind of moment. Big mistake. I walked into the house around 4 p.m. It was quiet. Odd, considering that usually around that time the kids are running around or glued to their tablets. I figured they were in their rooms. I dropped my bag, went upstairs, and as I passed the hallway toward our bedroom, I heard moaning. At first, I froze. Thought my brain was messing with me. Then I heard Marco's voice. Clear as day. I pushed open the bedroom door, and there they were. Sophie on her back, our bed sheets tangled around her legs, Marco between her thighs like this was some goddamn 5-star hotel. I didn't say anything. Not at first. I think I actually blacked out for a few seconds. Then Sophie screamed. Jumped off the bed like she'd seen a ghost. Marco just kind of scrambled, half-naked, mumbling Dude, like we were frat brothers or something. I didn't punch him. I wish I had. I just turned and walked out. I heard Sophie yelling after me, "Wait. It's not what you think." Not what I think. I sat in the car in the driveway for 10 minutes, trying to process what just happened. My hands were shaking. I thought I was going to throw up. Eventually, Sophie came running out in a robe, yelling at me to come inside so we can talk like adults. I told her we'd talk when I was calm. And that Marco needed to get his ass out of my house. She flipped. Started screaming that I was overreacting, that this didn't mean anything, and that if I were home more, maybe she wouldn't need to find comfort elsewhere. Yeah. She said that. I told her I'd be filing for divorce. Her expression changed instantly, like a switch. She went from hysterical to terrified. Started begging. Crying. Saying it was a mistake, that it only happened a few times, that she never stopped loving me. But the lies came fast and messy. First, she claimed Marco forced himself on her, which I don't believe for a second. Then she said it was just once. Then she said she was lonely and confused. I asked her how long it had been going on. She didn't answer. That silence told me everything. I stayed in a hotel that night. Called a lawyer the next day. And here's the twist, it turns out the chef wasn't just a fling. He was living in our guest house some nights while I was out of town. Our kids thought it was normal. Sophie had told them he was just staying late to help mommy. Yeah. Helping, all right. The morning after I caught them, I met with a divorce lawyer. I was running on zero sleep, just caffeine and rage. The lawyer was calm, clinical. She walked me through the process, told me what to expect, and asked the usual questions. Then she dropped a bombshell on me. Has your wife ever used any of your business accounts or joint credit for personal purchases? I said I wasn't sure, but she recommended I check immediately. If she's been using marital funds to support the affair, it changes things. You'll want documentation. So I pulled up our credit card statements. And my stomach dropped. Thousands spent at luxury hotels I'd never stayed in. Spa packages. Wine bars. Even a weekend getaway to Napa that Sophie said was with her old college friends. I texted her. Did you go to Napa with Marco? She replied with, don't accuse me of things you can't prove. I already said I made a mistake. Don't drag this out. Think of the kids. That was her go-to weapon now, the kids. Every time I tried to hold her accountable, she'd pivot to them. I wasn't stupid. I knew this would get ugly. But then it got worse. A few days later, I started receiving messages from an anonymous number. Screenshots. Texts between Sophie and Marco. Stuff like, he'll be gone this weekend. Can't wait to feel you again, face blowing a kiss. He's too busy with his company to notice anything. Honestly, I deserve better. And the worst one. If he ever finds out, I'll just cry and say I felt neglected. He'll eat that up. I confronted her again. She denied everything. Said the screenshots were fake, and someone was trying to sabotage her. Right. At this point, I was done playing nice. I told her I was moving forward with full custody. That I had a forensic accountant reviewing our finances. And that the guest house Marco used was now off limits, he was banned from the property. That's when she really lost it. She showed up at my temporary apartment banging on the door, screaming that I was destroying the family, and that I'd regret making her look like the villain. Lady, you are the villain. I called the cops. Got a temporary restraining order. But here's the kicker. The next day, my lawyer called me in for an urgent meeting. She had news. Marco is married. And his wife? Yeah, she wants to talk. So, Marco has a wife. Her name is Elena. Apparently, they've been married for 6 years and have a 4-year-old son. She had no idea he was living a double life, using their marriage as cover while he played house with my wife in my home. Elena found my contact info through a shared friend after Marco slipped up and left an old receipt from our place in the glove box of their car. She messaged me on Instagram of all places. Short and simple. I think your wife is having an affair with my husband. Can we talk? We set up a Zoom call. And let me tell you, it was surreal. Elena is smart. Calm. Nothing like Sophie. She had a binder of evidence, screenshots, emails, even pictures of Marco wearing my clothes. Apparently, Sophie let him borrow my Patagonia jacket because it looked good on him. That jacket cost $400. I nearly flipped. Elena had timeline breakdowns. Financial crossover. There were receipts from restaurants and hotels that I now know were charged to my card. I was funding their affair. Literally. But here's the kicker, Elena had access to Marco's old iCloud account. And guess what? There were videos. Yeah. That kind of video. Multiple ones. All in my house. One in the kitchen. One in our kids' playroom. I wanted to be sick. Elena offered to testify in my divorce case. Said she wanted full custody of her son and to burn Marco's reputation to the ground. I told her I'd help however I could. This was no longer just about infidelity. This was psychological warfare. I brought everything to my lawyer. She nearly choked when she saw the footage. She said this just turned into the kind of case that judges love to make examples out of. But of course, Sophie didn't take it well. When I served her the official divorce and custody papers, along with a no-contact clause for the kids until a full psychological evaluation, she lost her mind. I'm talking meltdown-level tantrum. She showed up again at my apartment. How she keeps getting past the front desk is beyond me, screaming in the hallway like a banshee. You're trying to make me look crazy. You're poisoning our children against me. You're jealous I finally found someone who cares. Someone who cares? You mean the married guy you let film you in our children's playroom? She then tried to say I had planted the evidence. That I was manipulating Marco's wife into some weird revenge fantasy. Yeah. Okay. But then came the next twist. A journal. My daughter's, to be exact. She's 8. And she kept a diary. She wrote about how mommy kisses Marco when daddy is gone, and how Marco sleeps in daddy's bed and sometimes mommy locks the door when we knock. I found it in her backpack while helping her with homework. That broke me. After I found my daughter's journal, something inside me snapped. She's only 8. And she'd been quietly processing the madness around her by writing it all down. No child should ever have to journal about their mom sneaking kisses with the kitchen man while daddy's away. No child should be knocking on a locked bedroom door while her mom's getting wrecked by a man who isn't her father. I showed the journal entries to my lawyer. She looked me in the eye and said, "We're not just going for full custody. We're going for supervised visitation only. And maybe a psychiatric evaluation." I agreed. No more being reasonable. No more trying to co-parent with someone who thinks gaslighting and lying is a personality trait. We filed an emergency motion. Meanwhile, Sophie was still in full-tilt denial mode. She posted a long Facebook rant about how betrayal comes in many forms and some people will weaponize your mistakes to control you. A few of her wine mom friends were commenting stuff like, "Stay strong, queen. He was never good enough for you." I didn't even bother responding. I just sent screenshots of the post to my lawyer. Why? Because Sophie was violating a court order by publicly discussing the ongoing custody case. Then came the real gut punch. CPS got involved. Apparently, Elena, Marco's wife, reported both of them after she saw the videos and read my daughter's journal. CPS contacted me and asked to interview the kids. I cooperated fully. They were professional and kind, but it felt like I was being gutted from the inside out, knowing this was all because of her. The social worker asked my daughter what she remembered about Marco. She said, "Sometimes he tucked me in at night." Mommy said it was okay because daddy was busy working. What the hell? The next day, Sophie tried to file for primary custody in retaliation. Claimed I was emotionally abusive and neglectful. claimed the real reason I travel so much is because I'm secretly cheating. Projection at its finest. But she didn't know what I had. The videos. The journal. The credit card statements. Elena's testimony. The emails and texts. All of it. We submitted everything to the court. And that's when Sophie did something completely insane. She tried to flip the kids against me. Told them I was trying to take them away from her forever, and that Daddy doesn't love Mommy anymore because she has a new friend. My 5-year-old son came to me crying, asking if he'd still be allowed to see his mom even though she broke the rules. That was it. I filed for an emergency restraining order to keep her away from the kids until the custody hearing. The courtroom was packed. It wasn't a criminal trial or anything, but family court can get dramatic, especially when someone like Sophie is involved. She walked in like she was the main character in a Lifetime movie, black dress, big sunglasses, tear-streaked makeup like she'd practiced in front of the mirror. Marco wasn't there. Apparently, he skipped town. More on that in part 7. I was calm. I had every document. Every screenshot. My lawyer was a bulldog with lipstick, professional, sharp, and ready to shred Sophie to ribbons. Sophie opened with the usual. Your Honor, I made a mistake. I was emotionally abandoned. I didn't feel loved. My husband was never home. I was lonely and confused. She actually started crying. The judge nodded politely, then asked her why the affair happened in the marital home, in front of the kids, multiple times, and on camera. She suddenly had no more tears. Then the judge brought up the Facebook post. Mrs. R., are you aware that discussing active custody proceedings publicly violates the temporary order of this court? Sophie looked shocked. She said, I was venting. I didn't mention names. The judge said, your profile is public, and you tagged your husband's employer. That was reckless. Then it was our turn. My lawyer dropped the journal first. You could hear a pin drop in the courtroom when she read aloud the part where our daughter wrote, Mommy says Daddy doesn't love us anymore. But I think Mommy is lying. Then the videos. We didn't play them, thank God, but we submitted stills. The judge flipped through them, stone-faced. At one point, he looked up and asked, Is that the children's playroom? Sophie stammered. Her voice cracked. She started saying things like, I didn't know he was recording. I was manipulated. I thought Marco was going to leave his wife. Yep. Now she was throwing Marco under the bus. Then my lawyer submitted financial records. Hotel stays. Expensive meals. Wine deliveries, some charged while I was out of the country. Sophie had no answer. Finally, we presented the testimony from Elena, Marco's wife. A written affidavit that laid it all out. The cheating, the videos, the deceit. It sealed the deal. Then, in a last-ditch effort to salvage her image, Sophie stood up and tried to blame me. She said I was emotionally cold. That I worked too much. That I had always made her feel like a failure. The judge cut her off. Mrs. R., emotional dissatisfaction does not justify exposing children to an extramarital affair in their home. This isn't a soap opera. You have repeatedly violated this court's orders, manipulated your children, and compromised their emotional well-being. Boom. The ruling? Temporary full custody granted to me, with supervised visitation for Sophie twice a week at a neutral facility. A full psychological evaluation was ordered before she could petition for anything more. She looked like she'd been slapped. After the hearing, she tried to talk to me in the parking lot. She screamed, You think you've won? This isn't over. Then she broke down sobbing on the pavement, screaming that he was supposed to choose her. I didn't ask who he was. I didn't care anymore. But remember how I said Marco skipped town? Yeah. That's where things get really interesting. So after the courtroom chaos, things should have settled down. But no. Because Marco vanished. Elena, Marco's wife, tried to serve him with divorce papers and found his apartment empty. His phone went straight to voicemail. His work said he resigned without notice. The guy ghosted everyone. Like he saw the courtroom train wreck and noped out of the entire state. Then, out of nowhere, Sophie sent me a text. "We need to talk. It's important. Please. For the kids." I ignored it. Then she showed up at the kids' supervised visitation center crying, demanding I call her. She said she had information I deserved to know. My lawyer advised me to record the call, and thank God I did. We spoke that night. Her voice was trembling, like the kind of fear you can't fake. "Marco's gone. I haven't heard from him either," she said. "Okay?" I replied. "Because he found out. I'm pregnant." Dead silence on my end. "With his child," she added. I burst out laughing. Not because it was funny, but because it was just too much. Like a plot twist from a low-budget telenovela. She kept going. "I didn't plan this. It just happened. And now he's vanished. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I have no money. I could lose everything." I said. "That's not my problem, Sophie. You burned your life down, and now you want me to bring a hose." She then made the boldest request I've ever heard. "Can you just not bring this up during the custody hearing? I don't want to look bad. If I lose the kids, I'll go crazy." "Lady, you already are crazy." I reported the pregnancy claim to my lawyer. She said it could actually help our case even more, demonstrating that Sophie is continuing a pattern of poor judgment and instability. But it gets worse. 2 days later, Elena texted me. "Check Marco's socials." Someone tagged him. I went on Instagram. Marco had posted a picture from Spain. Caption, "Starting over. New chapter. Spain victory hand." This dude literally fled the country. Elena was livid. She had her lawyer petition to have his passport revoked for abandoning his child, hers, and now Sophie is panicking because her fairy tale future with Marco just turned into an international disaster. Now she's pregnant, publicly humiliated, broke, under court scrutiny, and legally restricted from being alone with our kids. It's almost poetic. But then I found something she left behind at the house that sent everything into chaos again. Her old phone. And guess what? There were messages on it that made everything so much worse. So, that old phone. I don't know why she left it behind, probably forgot it during one of her chaotic trips back to the house before the court order kicked in. It was dead, no SIM card, and I almost threw it out. But something told me, charge it. I did. No passcode. Just swipe to open. Amateur mistake. What I found? Hell. It started with messages to Marco, obviously. They're little love notes. I expected cheating stuff, but this? It was darker. "Sophie. He, me, makes me sick. I fake every kiss. I don't even feel guilty anymore. Sometimes I imagine what it would be like if he just disappeared. The kids love Marco more anyway. They call him Fun Dad." Then voice notes. I clicked play. Her laughing. Our daughter crying in the background. She's mad because I told her to stop drawing her dad's picture. Said he's not around enough to matter. I sat there shaking. Not crying. Just numb. You know that feeling when your soul detaches? That. Then came the group chats. She had a thread with 3 girlfriends titled "Survivors of Marriage Face with Tears of Joy." They egged her on. "You should milk him for everything before he finds out. Tell him it's his baby. Dumb men always fall for it. If the chef leaves, just act like you're mentally unstable. Courts eat that up." One friend said. "Can't believe you're still letting him, me, pay for private school. Queen behavior. These people knew she was cheating. Knew she was lying to the kids. And they encouraged it like it was a game. But then I found the worst message of all. One she never sent, just a draft. It was addressed to my daughter. I'm sorry you feel like I love Marco more. But you'll understand when you're older. Your dad isn't who you think he is. That was it. I forwarded everything to my lawyer and the court-appointed custody evaluator. The reaction? Immediate emergency hearing request. The next day, I got a call from Sophie. Voicemail. She was crying again. You were never supposed to see those. Please don't hate me. I wasn't well. I was confused. I just wanted to feel alive. Alive? You destroyed 3 families to feel alive. I didn't respond. So, court day again. Sophie looked broken but defiant. She sat across from me like a wounded animal, eyes darting around the room. The judge was ready for a mess, and he got one. Just when it seemed like the custody case couldn't get any messier, Sophie dropped a bombshell that stunned everyone. She stood up and said, Your Honor, I have to confess something. The pregnancy? It's not real. I was never pregnant. Cue the gasp from the courtroom. She explained, in her hysterical way, that she made the whole thing up to try to manipulate me in the court. She said she was scared of being alone and desperate to keep control. Her lawyer tried to smooth it over, but the judge wasn't having it. Fabricating a pregnancy in a custody dispute is not only unethical, it is grounds for serious consequences. The judge ordered a psychiatric evaluation for Sophie ASAP and strongly hinted this would affect visitation rights. But that wasn't all. During cross-examination, Sophie accidentally revealed that she had been sending money to Marco during their affair even after he disappeared. Turns out Marco had been blackmailing her with the videos. He wanted hush money or he'd leak everything online. That's why he fled, he took the money and vanished. I couldn't believe it. The whole time I thought Marco was some cold cheat, but he was a parasite sucking us both dry. Elena's lawyer confirmed Marco had been under investigation for fraud and possible cyber extortion. Elena was furious but relieved. Meanwhile, Sophie's mental state looked worse than ever. The psychological report painted a picture of deep instability, borderline personality traits, and severe manipulation tendencies. So here we are, waiting for the judge's final ruling on custody, visitation, and the divorce settlement. I'm exhausted but relieved the truth is finally out. So the final hearing happened last week. The judge laid down the law hard. With all the evidence, the affair, the videos, Sophie's lies, the fake pregnancy, and her unstable mental health, he granted me full legal and physical custody of our 2 kids. Sophie's visitation was limited to supervised sessions at a counseling center, pending her completing a long-term psychiatric treatment program. The divorce was finalized with an amicable-ish financial settlement. I walked away with the house, thank God, and full responsibility for the kids. Sophie got a lump sum but no ongoing spousal support. She's still responsible for child support, but the court is watching how she manages that. Elena, Marco's wife, filed her own divorce and is pursuing a restraining order against Marco. She and I have stayed in touch, exchanging updates on the kids. It's strange, but we've become unlikely allies against the same chaos. As for Marco? He's still out of the country, unreachable. His reputation is trashed, and he's facing legal trouble back home for fraud and blackmail. Now, the hardest part, rebuilding trust with my kids. My daughter asked me recently, Dad, will Mommy ever love us again? I hugged her tight and said, Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices. But I'll always love you, no matter what. It's a long road ahead. But at least now, it's honest.